Hiya! So you just got your Xero subscription, or you've signed up for a free trial and you're not sure how to start setting it up, or you're not sure if you've set it up right? Come to the right place. I'm going to give you a very basic step-by-step guide on how to set your Xero up so that you can get started doing the actual bookkeeping. So first thing you want to do is set up the organization details. So if you come up to the company, click on there and come down to settings. And then you want to click organization details. And in here, what you're going to do is set up your actual basic company information. So here where it says display name, you're going to put the name that will show up in Xero. So if you're called John Smith Limited, you could just put John Smith in here. Someone like me who has multiple companies in Xero, I just put the standard company name, not always a legal trading name, just depends. This is though where you'll do that. So this is the name that you're going to put on your quotes, your invoices, purchase orders, remittance advices, and things like that. So this will go in your legal trading name box. So if you just put in John Smith here you might put John Smith LLP. Then you can upload your lovely logo if you have one. Here, your line of business, your company type, so whether you're a limited company, partnership, not for profit. And then down here, your registration number if you're limited, and a description. You don't have to put that, it's all for your own benefit. Contact details, so again, so it populates your invoices and so on. However, there is another part of Xero where you can put that in specific to how you want it to show up in your invoices and your remittance advice. Your physical address, if it's not the same as your postal address, so you have one address for correspondence, another address for deliveries, for example. If it's the same, you just tick that box there. And then your phone number, email, and website, and you're done. Click save, and that's it. Now, while you can enter data into Xero at any point, in order for you to get accurate financial reports, you need to add in your financial defaults. So you can do this one of two ways. You can either go back to the company, click settings, like you did for organization details, but then you have to come down here and look for advanced settings. And here you'll see financial settings. If I go back to the dashboard, the other option, maybe a little bit quicker, is to go up to accounting, then click advanced, and here it takes you straight into financial settings. So if you're already in the settings and you're looking for them, you can flick between the two. So what you're going to do here is set up your financial year dates and your tax defaults. So if we click on financial settings, the first thing that you'll see is it will show the financial year end. If you click on the blue box, if this is incorrect, you can change it to whatever date you want it to be. And it's warning you this will have considerable effect or impact on fixed assets. It actually have an impact on most of your reports, but hey. But the thing is with reports, you can actually set them to whatever date parameters you like. But if you're using a fixed asset part of this, then it will change everything. So I'm going to leave that at 31st of March. Your VAT scheme, if you're in the UK, is whether you're a cash scheme or accrual, flat rate. So you pick whichever of those that are applicable. If you're in the US or where else, then you'll pick your GST scheme and you will put the period or the frequency really of how much that is and any government number that you're given. So tax defaults don't really need to be set up here. You can do it when you go to set up defaults for invoices and quotes and so forth, but it's just as easy if you can remember to come in here to do them and it's done. But you might not want it to be across all these different types of documents. So for sales, your tax default will be based on the last sale. So if you always use a particular type of tax, so it's always 20% regardless, then every time you enter an invoice, it will just default to 20% if that's the one that was done previously. Tax inclusive just means, and I'll quickly show you what the difference between tax inclusive and exclusive. So if I duplicate that window. If I go to set up an invoice, so add invoice, and see if we've got any customers already in here. Yeah, so we're sending an invoice to Fulton Airport. Here you'll see that the amounts are tax inclusive or tax exclusive or no tax at all. So if I then go into add in the details, so I'm sending them shoes to the airport, and the unit price, or you could just do the standard price, is 500. If I'm VAT registered and I put in the inclusive figure, it will show us 500 in total. But if I put it as the exclusive figure, it will add VAT or GST to that 500. So you may always enter, if you're retail, you're probably going to always enter them as tax inclusive. If you're credit accounts or you have multiple different income streams, then you might put them as tax exclusive. So then you can fiddle around a lot more easily with the tax rates in here. Very simplistic example that I've shown you, but that's where that comes in. So if we come back over to here, that's what that is. And it's exactly the same principle with supplier bills. Construction industry scheme is just if you are or you're not. So you click which one you are. If you're not either of them, you ignore it. If you are signed up to the BACS system, then you put your BACS user service number, or your SUN number as they call it, in there. And your lock dates are the dates at which you want to stop anybody from being able to enter data. So if this is your first time using Xero and you've brought over opening balances and your last financial year was 2010, then what this does is it stops any changes being made dated before the 31st and up to the 31st, 2010. So you have an excited bookkeeper or member of staff or admin person who they may get a late bill, and they put it on not realizing that the bill is dated in February for the previous year, and it throws out all your opening balances. So that's to stop that happening. They'll get a warning sign. So you can do it where you can stop all users, but an advisor can continue to make changes. Or you can put a date here where it stops everybody. Nobody can do it. And I would suggest that possibly this is the better one. And then an advisor, who really should be the only people other than yourselves, if you're the business owner, who should know how to come in here. They can always come and amend this if they want to. But as a best practice, it is better to leave it on everybody. And then the chance of you making an error is minimal. Make sure your time zone is correct. And if you're happy with all of that, click save and you're done. Setting up your chart of accounts. Now, the chart of accounts is the backbone of your entire accounting system. So anytime you enter a transaction, whether it be a sale or an expense, it will be attached to one of the codes in the chart of accounts. So once this is set up to your liking, you can start to see the reports that you need to see to get the information and the data that you want to run your business. Now, it's a moving target to some degree when you start out, and there's nothing to say you can't change it later on down the line. But what you want to do is get to a point where you have a chart of accounts that you understand that reflects your business and the way you run it. So I'm just going to show you an overview of the chart of accounts and how you can add or amend if you need to. So if we go to accounting and chart of accounts, and if you come in here, you will see that the accounts all have numerical codes. Partly they are there to help you to understand the families of codes, and partly they are there to help you when you're adding new codes to ensure that you put them in the right place. It doesn't always work. This is where your accountant or your bookkeeper comes in very handy. But what I would suggest is that you refer to these and decide that you want to stay within a family, and then you make a decision as to what code you put where. So up here, we've got the bank accounts. Here we've got sales and the revenue, and they're in the 200s. then you have more. So for example, you can see here we have sales and here we have other revenue. So this is telling you it's income from any normal business activity. So if you are a retailer and you sell clothes, you might change them and you might want to break them down by the different types of garments that you sell. So you might make 2000 shoes, 2001 handbags, 2003 shirts, 2004 underwear, and so forth. Here, other revenue, basically it's things that you don't sell normally. It's not your normal trading income, but you've made some money from it. So some of the businesses that I work with, they tend to get a lot of donations. They sell off other things within the business that don't quite fit into their standard revenue. So they will put that there as well. Exactly the same principle works with purchases. So here you see the 300 ranges purchases. So you can create more from there. At the beginning, I say to people, just, if it's simpler for you, just use these initially. And then when you start to see reports and start to get used to the software, you can then start to get a little bit more creative. So all you need to do is, if you want to add an account, so say here for sales, we want to add another account. So we're going to, first of all, we're going to amend this one. So it says it's 200. So I might call that sales shoes. And the default shoes is always 20%, so we can leave that. You can change that. If you have an item in there or a tax default, when you're creating your income, whether it be an invoice or adding the data from your bank account, you can still change that. It's not set in stone. It's just a default that it will go to unless you change it. So we're changing that to shoes and we're going to save that. So now I want to add another income stream, which will be handbags. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click add account. Now I know 200 is taken, but the account type is revenue. So pick the same account type. The code must be unique. So if I put 200 in there, you'll see it says it's not available. So if I put 201, it is available. So then I'm going to make that sales handbags. You could put description there if you want to. Default stays the same. And I'm not going to go into these for the time being. And then and there you see. So you've got two more in your chart of accounts. So that's how you simply add an account. We have revenue, direct costs, overhead. Direct costs are things that specifically relate to how you make a sale. So as we showed with cost of goods sold, this is something that you spend in order to create the revenue up here. Down here, these are things, they're also called fixed costs. And these will tend to be things that you pay for regardless of how much you sell. So if you have rent, if you buy stationery, postage, as normal operating expenditure, and you can see it's the biggest group. Here it's just got expense. Now you can actually change these as well if you prefer to use another name for them. I would suggest you stick to the Xero defaults for now because it helps you. You can also set up more fixed assets, current liabilities. I would strongly suggest that when you start coming into the balance sheet side of things, that you liaise with your accountant. But for your standard profit and loss items, it's quite straightforward. Equally, if you want to add a bank account, you can add it in the same way as you did here. But here what it does, because Xero has bank feeds, what it encourages you to do is set up the bank so you automatically incorporate the bank feed. So your bank, if it's not listed here, you can type it in if you want to. So let's just see if it exists. So there's no such bank. So we'll use Barclays. And then what it will do, it will ask you to log into your bank and put in all the bank details that you have. And then it will link it up and create a bank account automatically in Xero to connect to that. So when it comes to bank accounts, it won't work necessarily in here as well because it's a demo account. But if you click on the bank account and you actually put in a legitimate bank, so if you put in Barclays, you will see bank feeds are available. Now it says the bank won't be saved because it's a demo, so there you go. But if I go back to the dashboard and look at here, if that's saved, in here, you'll see a bank feeds info here where you can click on. In fact, you don't even need to open that because it will actually show up on the front of the actual screen here. But obviously it's not going to do that because we're in a demo account. But if you do that, I would suggest you do, then you can start importing your bank feeds automatically and see them coming through each day without you having to do anything. So that is your chart of accounts. Also be aware that you can actually import your own chart of accounts. So if you're coming over from another accounting package and you want to use the same chart of accounts and you don't want to have the hassle of coming in and redoing and over typing these, you can actually come up here and click import. Now you'll have to set up the chart of accounts with parameters that match these, which I'm not going to go into right now. That's a whole different thing. But once you import them, it will overwrite all of these just to make you aware. Set up your tracking categories. Now, why would you want tracking categories? Some people like to set up their accounts so that they can easily assign them to a particular cost center, a particular location, a particular project, and being able to do that at source in an invoice or a bill is a very useful tool. You can do it so that you can see it within your profit and loss reports as a whole, or you can do it where you can print them off, or you can run the reports where it's just showing a particular tracking category. So how do we do that? If I come back to this invoice here, you will see that it's showing a region. And here it's showing east side, north, south, west. So they've already been set up. So you can just click on here and add another one if you wanted to, right at source. So let's just say global. Save that. And then when you come to doing any more invoices or bills, that will be there to choose. If you want to do a load or actually look at it and try and sort out exactly how you want to do it overall, then what you do is you go over to accounting, you click on advanced, messed up my invoice now, and tracking categories. And here what you'll see is this is where they were set up originally. So when I set it up in that invoice, it populated this. Now you can have two different types of categories. So you can add a tracking category here. So we've got region. The next one might be projects. And a project could be anything. So it could be, a project could be, I have a client who's doing a lot of capital expenditure. So one project might be car park rebuilding. Another one might be painting and decorating. Another one might be electrical work. So, so if we put that here, I'm going to put electrical upgrade and save that. So region, again, we have these. So if I go back and create an invoice again, so if I do add invoice, in fact, let's do a bill, because that probably make more sense. So if we add a bill, so we've received a bill, we've received it from office supplies company. So I don't know what we bought, so we bought from them. Just put their payment due. That's the invoice number. So we've bought some cable protectors. Yep. And they cost us £140 for one of the offices. So I don't know. Just put general expenses for the time being, whatever the VAT is. And that particular set of cables is going into the south region. And as you can see now, project appeared, which it wasn't there before. It's for the electrical upgrade, and we just approve that. Tracking categories is a subject on it by itself, but this will give you an idea of how to at least get them into your data as you're doing your day-to-day bookkeeping. And that, my friend, are the 4 basic things you need to set up the back end of your Xero account system so that you can get started and at least start to see some reports that start to make some sense. And I say start a lot. So I hope that was useful. Like if you liked. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new, and see you soon. Bye-bye.